Hello, and welcome to Beyond Common Business Secrets. This is a podcast where we dive deep into what it really takes to grow and scale your business by truly becoming the CEO of your life and your business. We dig into topics that you might not consider when you're first thinking about starting a business with your big dream vision. We also dig into things that other people just don't talk about. So that is what we do here. And you are welcome to enjoy. So I'm your host, Tracey Watts Cirino, and Tracey is spelled Tracey. As my dad always said, that was the only way to spell Tracey, even though, there's Tracey's with all sorts of spelling. So I just always laugh at that one. So we are going to go really, really into something that I hear every single day from entrepreneurs and business owners is, I just want more time. If only I had more time. So today we are diving into the topic of the 7 time management myths. We are going to myth bust all the time management myths that people are saying out in the world that we might have heard before. And we are going to bust through all of these, and you're going to walk away with a different sense of what it really looks like to become the CEO of your life and business. And if you have not grabbed it already, you can grab our 5 time saving strategies. The link to grab that free guide is in the show notes. We also are hosting a series of master classes called How to Create More Time and Enjoy More Freedom. So if you want to get face to face and ask me questions, I'd love to see, I'd love to see you. And we are diving really deep into that. So sign up to be part of the masterclass series, How to Create More Time and Enjoy More Freedom. And let's get into it. So this to me is like myth number 1. And I'm just going to so it's going to end up being that you have like a bonus out of this, because the biggest myth to me is that you can actually manage your time. I believe it's a deeper thing than this. We have to manage our values and our priorities and what's most important. When you manage the things that you really want in life, you are going to sort of manage your life and what you're willing to put energy and make decisions about, and where you're going to show up in the world. When you have that sort of right and tight, then you kind of give up the myth of thinking that you can really manage time, because, time is inevitable. It just keeps going. There are times it feels like it's fleeting, and you're like, if you're anything like me, like a creative entrepreneur, I love what I do so much that I just get lost in it. I'm like, oh, and my kids laugh because every now and again, they'll have days like that too, where they're like, oh, time went so fast. And I always say that if you love what you're doing, it'll feel like that every day. Like, oh, wow, this was so much fun. But you'll still have stuff to show for it at the end of the day. Like, you did accomplish stuff. You just are like, wow, I feel like I just got here. And then, of course, we're always talking to people that are like, oh, the day drags. It's like, those are the people that are no fun to be around. It's like, maybe there's something out of alignment. So that's one of those things. I think it's kind of a myth to sort of think that we can really manage time. There are so many other variables to it. So the on the list I created for the 7 time management myths, though, number 1 would be that busy equals productive. So many people focus on like just being busy, like, oh, I'm so busy. But if you're busy all the time with activity and you don't have anything to show for it, like there's no outcomes, sometimes that is just because we're hiding from dealing with our own feelings, thoughts, and emotions about, it could be something that's bothering you at work or home or personally, something that you haven't dealt with. So really think about, like, the best way to debunk this is to understand that by focusing on your outcome rather than just the activity, that'll take away the busyness. Another thing here is that you'll run into a lot of people that wear their busyness like a badge of honor. And I feel like for the longest time that was me. I would just be like, no, 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 to I couldn't do certain things because I was just too busy. Now that might be true sometimes, but I'm much more clear about why. When given the opportunity, I will let people know, no, I'm working on this currently. So I'm just a bit more specific rather than saying, oh, I'm so busy, because putting that out into the universe energetically, I just think it causes more stress, anxiety, and busyness. And that's not what we're going for. We're looking for the results, they have something to show for it. And then another thing in this area is that we kind of think that, getting organized and focusing on outcomes rather than activity, like we kind of look at this like time management thing, like it's only for work. But when you're effective at really mastering your time, it extends beyond the workplace. In fact, my philosophy is that we start there. Let's start with really making a life plan, right? So many people are afraid of a business plan. It's like, oh, what about a life plan? Like, when you have a life plan in place and then you create your business plan, like, watch out, world, because that's when things like really become unstoppable. So you want to allocate time for the things that you value in life, for your personal activities, for just self-care time, for relationships, for things that fulfill and nourish your body, mind, and soul. So think about those type of things when you really want, like, this is not just for work, it's for your whole life. So that is really important. Then another myth is that multitasking, people think that multitasking is efficient. And here's the thing. This is the thing. The Cleveland study recently did a study, and they completely blew this out of the water. They found that only 2.5% of people are actually able to multitask effectively. And for the rest of the world, which is like 90, right? It's like less than 97% of us. It's like, right, 98.5%. Our attempts to multitask actually create lots of errors. It makes us prone to inefficiency. It makes us have more burnout and more stress. So you actually almost, like, by trying to think you're multitasking, you end up having to redo things. And it just is really, really the opposite of what we're going for. So the study also said that if you attempt to just do your activities one task at a time to maximize efficiency and effectiveness, you will over the course of like a week, a month, you will save so much more time by really being clear, because it forces you to eliminate the time wasters, the time vampires, things that don't need to be done. So I thought that's really interesting, that it's, even though we're living in this world that we have, our attention is getting shorter than a goldfish because there's notifications, there's all the things going on. But to know that there's actual scientific evidence that only 2.5% of people are even able to multitask. So for the rest of us, we are unable to. Now, I'm sure this opens up something that where, yeah, you go get tested. The Cleveland Clinic, I'm sure many world-renowned hospitals will do this. Will do a test and brain scan and let you know if you have the type of brain that you can multitask. That's funny. Actually, I want to know who actually is that way. And another myth that exists in here is that we think that it's like time mastery or is really like a one size fits all. And that's the thing of like, when you are effective at laying out the strategies that allow you to truly become the CEO of your life, that's going to be very customized and based on individual preferences, your personality, like really your work style, how you energetically show up best, really being in tune with, what are like, it's almost like women are different than men in the sense like we have cycles throughout the month of where we can be really productive. And when we align with that, we can get more done in that cycle, but then we need more rest on other days. So don't be afraid to bust bust through the myth that this is a one size fits all. The more customized that you can get, and this is an area where we really dive into this inside of my course program, the CEO Power Code, because we really create these time efficient strategies that work best for you. Like, it's like not what the guru says. How do you actually work best to maximize your output so that you feel like that sense of fulfillment and excitement? At the start of the day, you want to have like that momentum driving you. And at the end of the day, you want to feel fulfilled and like it was a good day, not depleted. And when we're more in line with how we work best, this really creates that, it sort of gets the myth out of the way that time management, it's like not one size fits all. So really think about it through that lens. I find it so helpful. And this is one of the areas where my clients inside the Core CEO Power Code get, it like wows them. They're like, oh my goodness, it just blows their mind because someone 20 years ago or 5 years ago said, oh, do it this way. And they never questioned it. And that way has not been working. So we dive deep into really uncovering different threads in your business that allow you to create so much more space and time. That's why we say, like, what will you do with the extra 10 hours a week? Because that's truly what it provides. So in this area, I always suggest working with the strategy that works best for you. You're going to experiment with different techniques, find what works. And that's how we really customize your approach. And this is one of those things that's really hard to do alone in a vacuum. That's why being part of a group program like the CEO Power Code is really, really helpful because you're not doing it alone. You have people, right there with you, like me, walking you through. So, and the next myth is more hours worked equals more success. So I was guilty of this for so long. I, came from a long line of people that just were worker bees, like worked really hard to just get ahead. And so I really thought when I was young and started my first business that I could just outwork people. And that led to such misery and burnout, even though it started as something I was so passionate about, so excited. I want to help people. I love my clients. Like all these things were in place that you absolutely love, but it led to so much struggle and burnout because I was working so many hours and just thought you could add more hours. To me, that was like the vision of like that would lead to more success. And there's so many people that still believe this. So this one is like really, it really pokes at my heartstrings because this is very important to debunk because success is not solely determined by the number of hours you work. Like every busy business owner, like it doesn't mean you're successful if you're working 8 hours a week because I was killing myself when I was doing that. So the thing is that I actually, at this stage of my life, value spending time with family and being an active role and participant in leading and actually showing up as a loving parent that can nurture my children in their life and along the way. That is more important to me than completely crushing it and going after more when it comes to revenue. Now, I love money. I'm not saying that, like let it flow. There's ways to get paid more for working less. And that is that sweet spot that you want to get to, right? So when you're young and you start out, yeah, you have more time and you're trying to make money. Great. But I don't want you to ever look at it like more hours worked is going to equal more success because it doesn't. And actually, sometimes when you start working too much, like that's where you start becoming prone to error and just like challenges. You can hurt yourself. You can make mistakes that that can hurt others. So, depending on what line of work you're in, you really want to be careful of this. So this is important to really focus on working smarter. Like, one of the questions I will ask at the start of every day when I look over what we have going on, it's like, what is one thing that will make this all easier or unnecessary? So if I can come up with something that makes everything easier, or, what would maximize, if I have an hour to spend, what is going to give me the maximum output? So I'll just ask those questions at the start of a day. I'll ask them of myself, my team, as we come together. It's really important to ask yourself these questions to stretch beyond what you're currently doing. So in this area, you want to continue to set boundaries for yourself, delegate tasks, prioritize your own self-care, and maintain sustainable productivity. Now, when I first started working on this, I appointed a couple of key team members that worked with me that would be sort of my alarm clock. Like, hey, you need to go. Like, if I would just, like, I'm going to say and do one more thing, one more phone call, connect with one more client or one more team member, I would let them know, say my kids have a doctor's appointment, or I really need to go get a massage, meet with friends, like whatever it was, I would let them know I had a specific appointment and I needed to be out at a certain time. So there are people that are currently in your life that are better at this than you. They will help you create what I call like the bumper cars, right? These are like the boundaries until you develop the habit of what this actually looks like for you. So it's really important to share this with the people that you work with. And if you don't work with specific people, if you're more of entrepreneur working alone, then make sure you have accountability partners that can check in with you at certain times, or become part of a program that is going to hold you accountable to this. The number 4 like myth like that I hear all the time is planning takes too much time. And I have to say, I was totally guilty of this. It seemed so ridiculous to stop and sit down and plan when I could have already been I could have already been well into my work day. Like, if I'm going to spend 30 minutes planning, then I could have got 30 minutes of work done. That's what I used to think. And I proved that wrong, because if I really come at this from an effective strategy planning, we will have more clarity on what are the things that make everything else, right? Like I said, to ask yourself that question, what will make this everything else on this list more effective or even unnecessary? So if you can look at it through that lens and understand that when you say, oh, planning just takes too much time, it seems counterintuitive. I know that. But the thing is that the more you plan and create strategic action, you get this level of clarity and focus that allows you to get so much more done and be working on what really matters. Because if you're just like running all over the place, and that's not like it's really funny. Whenever I'm doing interviews, a lot of times the number one thing I will hear from team members or people that want to be on our team, and this has just been true. This is like literally happened for the last 20 years. They will always say stuff about their the manager, the boss that they liked the least was somebody that was not organized and was running all over the place, like just constantly creating fires, putting out fires with no strategic plan. That type of leader is usually not who people want to work with. And if that's where you are, this, my friend, can be changed just by sitting down and starting with a simple plan. You just want to jot down a couple of things to bring you back to focus so you can be truly present. And then your creativity starts sprinkling on this so that you are saving so much time. So you want to really think about that, like invest in things that create more of a structured plan. Be a part of something that holds you accountable to this. This is the one area that when we like, because there's like that thing of time versus money. We dive really into this inside the CEO Power Code as well. And I think that's I think it's module 1. We really dive into time versus money. And it's one of those things that it's not renewable, right? Time when it's done, it's done. So if we can maximize how efficient we are and how, like, we only have to do something once, but then we get a ripple effect of it being profitable for us, that's that magical sweet spot where when you can really master your time and really be the CEO, this creates multiple streams of income for you, and it creates such a ripple effect. So this is an area that if you have not dug in on this, now more than ever, as technology advances and things get more complicated, they're supposed to all save our time. But if we have all these bells and whistles and notifications and we're not truly owning our today, that just goes off the rails, right? And then we are not productive at all. So when you come at this through, this is like one of the areas that's so important to wrangle in and get yourself to really be confident in this area and make strategic changes. Like, it's, if you're not getting the results you currently want, then this is one of the number one areas that you will see the biggest return on your investment when you work with a professional. So this is one of those things that I was surprised because mine all came to me from trial and error because I'm just a creative business owner. I never really realized how my ability to see patterns and group things together in categories, it's kind of like a superpower I have, really would help people with time saving. So this is an area that my clients rave about. That's why we ended up coming up with the CEO Power Code as one of our programs, because it is an area that is so helpful and knocks down so many of the roadblocks and barriers that are in your business, in your life. So, number 5, moving along, the myth, and this is like one of the things that people still think, I think sometimes, and you want to really be careful of this. The myth is that you always need to be available. So here's the thing. You want to make the clients feel taken care of and that they're a priority, but you can set boundaries. You don't have to constantly be available. You have to understand that if you're constantly available, it leads to burnout and undermines your productivity. You need to schedule out variable time. So if you're somebody that does a service, sells a product in your business, and you're the one actually doing the selling and performing the service, then that's time you're working in your business, right? You want to also schedule time that you're working on your business because you cannot always be available. You have to put in systems and strategies and things that make it feel like to your customer that they're always taken care of. And that's other automations and things like that. And that's even more stuff that we cover inside. So this is so important. And this is a lot of the stuff that we're covering inside the masterclass of how to create more time and enjoy more freedom. So moving on to myth number 6, it's like, we think we can't control interruptions. Like, oh, I got, like, a lot of the business owners, I'm like, oh, well, I got interrupted, so I lost 4 hours of work. And that we think that, right? I've talked to clients about this all the time. And I'm like, walk me through what happened. And it is, when we dig more and more into it, there'll be something there that is a system, a strategy, a standard operating procedure, something that we can set up as a protocol that will make this not happen again, right? So it may happen once, but what we need to dissect it and learn, like, why it's happening. And it could be that, oh, one of your team members had a problem with a client and they didn't know how to handle it, so you had to step in. So that's great. Like, then now you're starting to compile this list of, if this happens, then that, right? So you can say, if X, then Y, and start creating that document every time you're pulled out. So we can only control, if we focus on that sort of for a mental stability, for our own mental well-being, our own mental health, we focus on the inner circle. The only thing that we can control is our attitude, and how we respond to everything, right? We cannot control anything outside of that circle. So we can control that somebody's going to interrupt us or that they're going to need us. But what we can control is our response. So some interruptions are, they're inevitable, but you can really minimize the impact that they have on taking time away from you by setting boundaries, by managing expectations, and really leaving your people to be problem solvers. Ask questions that lead them through solving a problem and then trust them to do it. I remember one of the first times that I had a really young team at the time. Everyone was very in their early 20s. And we had a few key positions, and I like to include everybody in the hiring process to make sure people gel. But at the end of the day, everyone knows it's my decision if I think someone is in alignment. And I really liked a girl that we had working at our as our guest service experience person. And when I got back from, I think I was teaching at a workshop, and I came back after the weekend of being gone traveling. And it was so funny because they're like, oh, we had to fire her. She was late. She was 45 minutes late for work, and she had Starbucks in her hand. And that was really funny because if she was really smart, if she would have brought Starbucks for everybody, she probably wouldn't have got fired. But the thing is that I was so proud of my team. It was no questions asked. They were like, we had to fire her because, and that is the whole thing of empowering people to grow and make those decisions. And I really thought that was awesome. And that's one of those things that you want to hold the standard of what it looks like for you. But then, it's almost like you have to micromanage in the beginning when you haven't built up trust with that person. They don't know your systems yet. They don't know how you operate. You are learning if they're trustworthy, that, how do they gel with your team? There's all these variables. So it's just after a time, if they've proven themselves, then you want to give them more freedom, because that's when really great things happen, when you empower your team to help making choices like that. So it's that whole thing of we can't exactly control the interruptions, but when we, carve out and create designated focus time that we can mitigate those, we use different tools that can be time blocking our schedule. We empower our team so that we're growing leaders, not just followers. I think that's really important. And then the other thing that falls within this, it's you you can't catch up lost time. This is the number one thing. And I thought this for years too, that, oh, I'll just sleep in on the weekend. You can't make up the time that you missed out on sleeping. Go to bed. Get yourself a good night's rest. You're not going to make up for it. It actually messes up your time, your internal nocturnal clock. So if you stay up really late on the weekend and then, sleep in, then it's going to be harder for you to go to bed on Sunday night. And then Monday, you wake up exhausted and you're starting the week from a deficit. So you cannot make up time. You cannot make it up. It's if something squandered your time, it's bless and release, move on. Let's be more strategic tomorrow. So that is a huge myth. It's a non-renewable resource. Once it's gone, it's gone. Now we can talk about living in higher levels of frequency. If we're talking about the quantum field and we're living in 5D, we can collapse time, that I'm focusing on manifesting my dreams and I can see it as if it's happening right now, but I can also look at the past and the future. So if we're talking on a quantum level, it's a whole different playing field. But if we're talking about here on Earth currently, this is where we cannot make it up, right? When we transcend time and space, which is what I am always working on doing, that's my son and I can talk about this for hours. It's just one of those things yeah, when you get to that level of the quantum field, great. But while you're in 3D earthly being, you cannot, it's a non-renewable resource. It is a man-made concept. You can prevent time deficiencies by just embracing the do it now philosophy and getting more strategic so that you have that mental staying power. And then you just avoid playing catch up that way. And there are really amazing things inside the masterclass. We dive into the power of no. And that's an area that really helps this really bust through even more myths here. So then myth number 7 for us to wrap it up is saying yes to, like thinking that saying yes to everything is the key to the success. And it is not. Overcommitting so that you overwhelm yourself, you overwhelm your team, you dilute the quality. Like saying yes to everything was a strategy that people used to prescribe all the time. Gurus would say this to everybody. I say call BS on it. Only say yes to what is in alignment for you so you can show up as your best self. If I say yes to everything, then when somebody calls to say, hey, Brene Brown, because hey, Brene, I'd love for you to call me, wants you to be the opening talk at her next leadership conference, I can say yes because I strategically have manifested that to happen, right? If I say yes to all these things I know, I don't want to speak at the convention on I'm just trying to think of something boring on I can't like on what happens to bark. That might be really exciting for somebody else, but I don't have an interest in anything about tree bark, so that would be a no. um the more that we say no to things that are not in alignment, and we create space to say yes to the things that we really, really want. So that is that one's tough because if you're really good at the art of negotiation, which sometimes it's really funny, like you can kind of negotiate and debate this both ways where, oh, this could lead to this could lead to that. I say, take a moment, breathe, align with your energy, know how you like. For me, I have to feel it in my heart. Like it's funny because in human design, like that, it's my heart center. So I know that I get a certain feeling in my body and it's aligned with my heart. And then I just say yes. But sometimes if I'm not feeling that, I used to convince myself that, oh, well, maybe I would later or this, that. So I would say yes to so many more things. And it would always be like more challenges. It wouldn't go as easy. It was difficult, complicated. The more I say no to things when they don't align with my heart center, the better life gets. So be in tune with how you work best and don't think that you have to overcommit because it dilutes your effectiveness. You get frustrated, like maybe angry, and you don't want to be doing stuff in your business for your team, for your clients, from a place of anger. You want it to come from this greatest place of goodness of serving others, right? When we come from that place, it is amazing. Like, here's an example: the podcast. We have talked about possibly getting to the point that we do 2 episodes a week, but we are monitoring our revenue. When our revenue hits the level of production from advertisements and things of that sort, then we can add more people to our team to work in the back end production that will make this happen. My like gut, my ego says like, let's do it, because why not? Because I love this part, but it will strap my team too much at this moment. So this is an area like where sometimes you want to say yes because it feels good and it's exciting. But then when I put the strategy on it, it's not no forever. It will be a yes, just not right now. So that's like the other things of learning to just say no to like non-essential things. And then we will delegate that production and different stuff to a new team member when we're ready to hire for that position. That will free up space from a lot of things that we're doing now, but we're very strategic, knowing that there has to be a certain level of revenue before we get there. So you always want to focus on that your activities are aligned with your priorities and goals. And when you look at it through like debunking these things, it's like, these are the myths that like we've been told these forever. So If you have been believing them, you are not alone, my friend. You are not alone. So many of us grew up believing these, but the thing is that you don't have to believe it anymore if you have proven a new truth. So go with your new truth. I hope that you have gained tremendous value from this episode. I love doing the the myth busting episodes. And to dive deep even more, sign up and enroll for our How to Create More Time and Enjoy More Freedom Masterclass. The link is in the show notes. And if you found this podcast to be tremendous value, please write in the comments and give us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast, and reach out on social media. I love when you tag me on Instagram or Facebook, sharing the golden nuggets that you take away from Beyond Common Business Secrets every week. As always, thank you for being here, my friend. I hope you have the most beyond amazing kind of day, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.